Project Serpo, The Secret Exchange, Part 2. As the crew of Project Serpo settled into their new lives on the alien planet, the initial sense of awe and wonder began to fade. The harsh realities of Serpo's environment started to take their toll. Life on this distant world was far more difficult than they had been led to believe. Despite the Ebon's technological superiority, the crew faced numerous obstacles in their quest to survive and fulfill their mission. The first major challenge the astronauts encountered was the planet's extreme climate. Serpo's atmosphere was thin, and its surface was a mixture of barren deserts, rocky plateaus, and jagged mountains. The temperatures during the day were scorching, often reaching unbearable levels, while at night the temperature would plummet to freezing, creating a constant battle for survival. The humans were given protective suits that helped mitigate some of the extreme temperature fluctuations, but the suits could only do so much. The lack of breathable oxygen made outdoor exploration dangerous, and the crew had to rely on the Ebon's advanced life support systems to stay alive. Even inside the Ebon's technologically advanced cities, the air was thin, and the environment felt uncomfortably alien. Though the crew had undergone rigorous training, they quickly realized that no amount of preparation could have fully prepared them for the physical and mental toll that life on Serpo would take. The food that the Ebons provided was vastly different from what the humans were accustomed to. While some members of the crew managed to adapt, others struggled with illness. They found the food difficult to digest, and the water, though abundant, was strange to them. Some astronauts fell ill, suffering from what was believed to be a reaction to the planet's alien atmosphere. There were even reports of hallucinations and strange dreams, possible side effects of long-term exposure to Serpo's unique environment. Despite these hardships, the crew remained determined to fulfill their mission. They continued to observe the Ebon's advanced technology, and over time, they became more familiar with their host's way of life. The Ebons themselves were far more advanced than anything the humans had imagined. They had mastered space travel, energy manipulation, and even medical technology that could heal injuries in a matter of hours. Yet as time passed, the crew began to notice strange inconsistencies in the Ebons' behavior. While the Ebons appeared to be friendly and welcoming, there were moments when their actions seemed to have hidden meanings. Some of the astronauts began to question the true nature of the exchange between Earth and the Ebons. It wasn't just the climate or the food that bothered the crew, it was the way the Ebons interacted with them. While the aliens communicated telepathically and were able to provide the humans with an immense amount of knowledge, their emotions and intentions were difficult to decipher. At times, the humans felt as though they were merely pawns in a much larger, more complex game. Some astronauts began to suspect that the Ebons were withholding crucial information, perhaps even manipulating the humans for their own purposes. Moreover, despite their advanced knowledge, the Ebons seemed strangely reluctant to share everything with the humans. Though they offered technological advancements, the humans were not permitted access to certain aspects of their society. The Ebons were careful in what they revealed, always making sure to retain control over certain key pieces of knowledge. One of the most unsettling aspects of the exchange was the stark contrast between the Ebon society and the human crew's experiences. The Ebons were peaceful and highly intelligent, yet their society seemed to be built around a strict hierarchy, one that the humans found difficult to understand. Though the Ebons were welcoming, they never fully integrated with the humans, and the cultural gap between the two species seemed unbridgeable. As months turned into years, the astronauts began to feel increasingly isolated. Despite their close quarters with the Ebons, there was always a sense that the aliens were holding something back. They were never allowed to explore certain areas of the cities or interact freely with the general population of the Ebons. The humans were kept under constant observation. It was clear that the Ebons were interested in the humans' knowledge and technology, but they were not as open to sharing their own. The crew couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens were trying to use them for their own gain. Over time, some members of the crew began to show signs of psychological distress. The isolation from Earth was beginning to take its toll. The human astronauts had left everything behind: families, friends, and loved ones. And now, years later, they were stranded on a foreign world with no way of returning. The promise of a return to Earth seemed increasingly distant as the Ebon's secrecy grew more pronounced. One of the most striking aspects of the mission was the subtle manipulation of time. The humans were on Serpo for what seemed like a lifetime, but when they attempted to communicate with Earth, they learned that only a few years had passed. The time dilation between Earth and Serpo was far more significant than anyone had anticipated. A few years on Serpo could mean decades on Earth. For the astronauts, this revelation was devastating. They realized that the world they had left behind no longer existed in the same way. As the years stretched on, the astronauts became more and more desperate to return home. But the Abans seemed uninterested in sending them back. It became increasingly apparent that the aliens had their own agenda. They had no intention of allowing the humans to return with knowledge of their technology. Instead, they sought to keep the humans on Serpo as part of a much larger experiment, a test of human adaptability and loyalty. The Evans had manipulated the exchange from the very beginning. By the time the mission reached its final stages, the once unified group of astronauts was fracturing. The men who had set out on the mission with such idealistic hopes had been worn down by years of isolation, hardship, and frustration. Some had become ill, both physically and mentally. Others were simply broken by the realization that their mission had been doomed from the start. In the end, the humans who survived on Serpo were not the same men who had left Earth. Their perceptions of their mission, their place in the universe, and their understanding of the Evans had shifted radically. Many of them would never speak of their experiences again, and some never made it back to Earth at all. The official records of Project Serpo were sealed, and the details of the mission remained classified for years. But whispers of the mission continued to circulate, with a few brave individuals coming forward to share what they knew. The true extent of the project, however, may never be fully revealed. What the astronauts learned on Serpo and what the Evans truly wanted is a mystery that still haunts the corners of history. End of part 2. In the next part of the story, we will explore what happened when the surviving astronauts finally returned to Earth, the secrets they brought with them, and the eerie aftermath of their mission. Stay tuned to uncover the shocking conclusion of Project Serpo.